Touring 2008 on TSN is brought to you by the new Q horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.
This week we're in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. And you know, the West Coast is known for many things, but especially for its rain and lots of it. But they tell me here that Victoria is second only to Estevan, Saskatchewan for the number of days of sunshine it receives every year. And you know, we're here this week not only to enjoy the sunshine, but also to check out two new vehicles. Well, really one model with lots of variations. It's the Subaru Impreza, which was first introduced in the early 90s. Good vehicle, not very exciting, but the same could be said for most of the Subaru lineup. Well, in 2001, Subaru took advantage of its World Rally success by introducing the WRX, and things really heated up. Well, of course, the WRX could be considered the halo car in the Subaru showroom, but Subaru, led by its president, thinks that a lot of consumers are really overlooking what they consider the real star in the Subaru lineup.
The WRX is a very interesting vehicle. It really is an image vehicle for us. It represents what Impreza is all about, and that is a vehicle that delivers outstanding driving performance. And all those things that are in the WRX are available in every single Impreza. The Impreza naturally aspirated model fits in the compact car segment, which is about 49% of the total passenger car segment. So it's a huge volume opportunity. And with the new Impreza, what we've got is an outstanding vehicle that I think is going to get a lot of attention and offer some huge sales potential. People in the past have been purchasing Subarus and Imprezas specifically because it met their needs. But I think with the new Impreza, they're going to have something that visually appeals to them and something that provides a lot of excitement when they get into it and drive it and experience it.
Now, we all know that Subaru is a Japanese company, right? Well, maybe not. Subaru Canada President Katsuhiro Yokoyama had a really interesting experience recently going through immigration.
The immigration custom officer asked me whether the Subaru is an Australian brand, or I have experience that being asked by a Swedish brand. So we recognize that, the Canadian people may not have a clear understanding what is a Subaru, what is a Subaru product brand. We need some volume because of the dealers and also more brand awareness in the Canadian market. So we think Impreza 2.5 is a right product or most important product to achieve that objective, one of the objectives of Subaru Canada.
Subaru is a very small player in the overall scheme of things, but I've always had a lot of respect for Subaru. It's a very good little company. They produce some interesting products. They don't really copy anybody else, unless you can call horizontally opposed engines copies of Porsches. They don't really follow, and they're not followers. The products are quite innovative, and they're very interesting, and Subarus are a product that I recommend to many friends, and they never come back and say, hey, what did you do to me here?
The vehicle is virtually larger in every single dimension. A longer wheelbase provides for more interior legroom. It's wider on the inside, provides you with more room in that, more comfort. We've also improved the seat comfort by a new seat structure. Lower back support's been improved, thigh support's been improved. Audio systems have been improved. I mean, virtually every aspect of the vehicle has been improved.
I think that the new hatchback is vastly better than the old one. I thought the old hatchback Impreza was just an awful looking thing. I never liked it from day one. The sedan, the new sedan, a little bit straightforward, a little bit ordinary, nothing very exciting about it particularly, but it drives very nicely.
You know, in real estate, it's all about location, but in the car business, well, price plays a big part. And usually when car makers try and lower prices, they have to take content out of the vehicle. Well, the new 2008 Subaru Impreza, well, they have things standard on this vehicle like ABS brakes, active head restraints, and even side curtain airbags. But they've lowered the price, and you get this, $2,000 over the previous model.
When you get a car for under $21,000 with cruise control and air conditioning, you don't get automatic, but I don't want it anyhow. And of course, the symmetrical all-wheel drive. It's becomes an absolute bargain. I'm starting to ask myself after driving it this morning, hey, I wonder what one of these would lease for.
Well, right now we're looking at about a 30% increase in our sales with Impreza. And I know that sounds very aggressive, especially in a market that's relatively stable. But we think with the new Impreza, we've got a vehicle that will be added to the shopping list of many buyers. And so when they're considering other compact cars, they will now include Impreza.
Let me out, I got something I gotta tell you. More later on Kenzie's Corner.
Saturn is an evolving brand. Now, believe it or not, the Sky Roadster is the oldest vehicle in its portfolio. This week on Test Drive, the much anticipated Astra, its newest set of wheels. Unlike many of the European imports GM has shipped across the pond, the Astra actually arrives intact. It is exactly as sold by Opel, which is a very good thing. Lift the hood and you'll find a peppy 1.8-litre 4 that's married to a 5-speed manual or optional 4-speed automatic. The reason for the peppy pickup is down to the 140 horsepower and 125 pounds-feet of torque, as well as the manual's gear ratios. First and second bring surprising hop off the line. The engine is also a smooth operator. The idle is refined, and even when stretched to redline, it retains its composure. Yes, there is some noise, but nothing like GM's old 4-bangers. Likewise, the manual box features a well-defined shift, and so it does not clunk its way through the gears. And the clutch, well, it has a perfect bite point. Now, if this 5-door isn't quite your cup of tea, don't worry, because there's always this car, a 3-door version. Now, this one comes with larger wheels and tyres, a sportier suspension and faster steering. It really is a pleasure to drive. The drawback, this plunging roofline, it takes about 44 millimeters out of the headspace. Where I can sit in the 5-door comfortably, the 3-door is a little tight. However, what you lose in headspace, you more than make up for in driving pleasure. The reason the 3-door is noticeably sharper than the 5 boils down to the suspension and steering, but more importantly, the tyre availability. The 5-door comes with 205 55R16s that can be optioned up to 225 45R17s. The 3-door, which also lowers the ride height by 15 mil, comes with the 17 inches as standard and optional 225 40R18. The latter really do make the car dance. On the one side, the 5-door has an accomplished ride that is both comfortable and capable. The 3-door is as good as anything in the class. Body roll is benign and understeer only surfaces when the driver really starts to take liberties. This new Saturn Astra breaks new ground. Not only are anti-lock brakes standard on both of these vehicles across the entire lineup, you also get electronic stability control and a very good system in the form of StabiliTrak. It's standard on this 3-door and optional on the 5-door. In this segment, that is unprecedented and a move that's to be applauded. The magnitude of this move should not be overlooked. To begin with, anti-lock is optional on the base Nissan Versa and all versions of the 2008 Toyota Matrix. The better news is that this electronic combination works very nicely. The stops are crisp and the anti-lock actually stays out until it's really needed. Likewise, when StabiliTrak does step in, it is much less intrusive than most other systems. When you get inside the Astra, it does not disappoint, and it's certainly a match for the rest of the car. To begin with, the materials are very rich for this end of the price spectrum. In fact, the dash is of the soft touch variety. You also get very nice seats. Now, these things are bolstered enough to hug without being confining. Add these with manual height adjustment on the driver's side to tilt and telescopic steering wheel adjustment, and you can find the right and correct driving position. In other words, you get comfortable before you go play. As for the rest of the safety equation, the Astra is up to snuff. Tyre pressure monitoring is standard, as are dual-stage front and side seat mounted airbags, as well as drop-down curtains. You'll also find active headrests and breakaway pedals. The latter collapse in a crash, which significantly reduces the risk of serious leg injury. The Astra really does give Saturn a formidable 1-2 punch. Both cars handle very well, they've got plenty of power, and the availability of electronic stability control at this end of the market, well, it's something unique. If you're looking for accommodation and versatility, take the 5-door. If you want pure fun and driving pleasure, you take the 3-door. The bottom line, these two cars really do put the cat amongst the pigeons at the affordable end of the price ladder. Time to wrap up our long-term Rondo. Now, with the exception of the average fuel economy, which at 11 litres per 100 kilometres has been a little heavier than I anticipated, everything has gone exceptionally well. The driving position is very good. The 3 rows of seats work as well as anything in the market, except perhaps for a full-size minivan. It handles exceptionally well, and that small 6, when combined with a 5-speed automatic, it gives you the pop you need to get around a slower-moving vehicle safely. The bottom line, I like this car so much, this isn't our long-term tester anymore, they're my new wheels.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2008 is brought to you in part by Buick Enclave, the finest luxury crossover ever.
The M6 Coupe is sister, if you will, of the legendary M5. The M6 has its own unique blend of attributes. For starters, it's a coupe. It's a definite 2+2, but it still has the same performance levels of the M5 because it shares that wonderful 500 horsepower that absolutely sings. M6 this year is teamed up with a 6-speed manual gearbox, so we're talking about acceleration time 0 to 100 of sub 5 seconds. Even though it's a ultra-performance car, the M6 has been designed with lightweight in mind. It has a carbon fiber roof. It also has other weight-saving technologies to try to maximize not only the performance of the car in terms of speed and acceleration, but also in fuel economy.
You know, along with all-wheel drive, Subaru, like Porsche, have been a big fan of horizontally opposed boxer engines. But you know what? If there's such a great concept, how come the rest of the industry hasn't fallen into line? Well, let's put that question to our man in the Quaker State Garage, Bill Gardiner.
Well, Brad, when you think about it, think about one of the most mass-produced cars of all time. The original Volkswagen Beetle, back when it was an air-cooled engine, was a horizontally opposed or flat 4 or boxer 4-cylinder engine. Now, when we use the term boxer engine, we're talking about a horizontally opposed engine. Now, if you think about an inline 4, you've got the crankshaft down here with the cylinders above it and all the weight and bulk and mass of the engine above the crank center line. With a V8, you've got 2 banks of cylinders arranged in a V, usually of 60 degrees or 90 degrees V. And on a boxer engine or a horizontally opposed engine, you've got the cylinders laid right down flat. In other words, in line with the crankshaft. They're not above the center line of the crankshaft. There's a line drawn straight through the heads, block, and crankshaft. So it keeps the mass of the engine, the bulk of the engine, low in the chassis, which helps lower the center of gravity, which helps handling. You'll find a lot of motorcycles use that as well. The Honda Goldwing, for example, and the BMW, the big touring bikes that BMW makes, are horizontally opposed engines as well. Keeps that center of gravity and mass low in the chassis. Now, in the Subaru cars, of course, the center of gravity is low with this engine. Also, it's a packaging thing. If you remember the older Subaru cars, before they went to turbocharging, before you had an intercooler up in this area, they actually had enough room in the rear of the engine bay to put the spare tire. The whole spare tire would occupy this space back here where the intercooler is on this particular car. So packaging problems are addressed by going to a boxer engine as well. One thing that a problem that you do tend to have though with horizontally opposed engines when they get older is the fact that they tend to leak a little bit of oil. And that's sort of inherent by the fact that the crankcases are split vertically. So you've got vertical splits and gasketed surfaces in the crankcase that are submerged in oil. So when the engine gets older, they are sometimes prone to oil leaks. Usually not a big situation. People learn to live with it. One thing that I don't like about horizontally opposed engines, personally I don't like the exhaust note of them, but they do run well. And it's kind of neat, Brad, that at least some manufacturers are sort of bucking the trend and putting their personal signature on the mechanical side of the vehicle, because there's so much sameness in the exterior styling of vehicles. At least when you get to the mechanical side, there's a little bit of difference. But hats off to Subaru for another key point. I haven't seen the stats, the weight stats on this vehicle, but I have on some of their redesigns on many of the vehicles they're building today. The Outback, a perfect example. On the latest generation or the latest redesign of those vehicles, they've dropped significant amounts of weight in that vehicle, several hundred pounds in some cases, through the extensive use of aluminum components in that vehicle. So they were able to scale it down, keep the weight down. When you keep the weight down, it gives you a better power to weight ratio and better fuel economy, which is what we all want. So till next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 2008.
Okay, so he could sit and spin here all day in this maneuver. He's stuck. So he's spinning here, he's stuck in the maneuver. As he gives it more gas, it's going to engage and lock. There's the lock, and through the maneuver. So what you have just witnessed is a two-wheel drive GM pickup truck with a locking differential outperforming a Ford four-wheel drive vehicle.
For many of these media, they can drive a vehicle one night in certain weather and certain conditions and another vehicle another time. Here they can pull, say, identical trailers over the same course and get a good idea of how the trucks really compare to one another in I'll say, a more controlled setting and more controlled environment.
It's a little unusual. It's difficult for any manufacturer to bring together a lot of their competitors' equipment all in one place at one time. But for a journalist, it's the greatest way to get a real sense of what's going on in the business, because you're going from seat to seat to seat, all within the span of a half an hour, and you get a real good feel for what's going on there.
We have the Super Duties from Ford along with our heavy-duty Duramax trucks. And then in the light duties, we have the Ford 150, we have the Dodge Ram, and the Toyota Tundra 5.7 versus our Fortec Max and our Denali. Obviously, you're letting all the competitors put their best foot forward against our trucks, but we feel the depth and the breadth of our truck lineup. We can match or meet anything any of the competition has to offer. If, say, Toyota has their 5.7 liter, we have a 6.2 liter, so we can make more horsepower than they can, that kind of thing. Fuel economy, it's no contest, although we won't do it today because our trucks are superior to all the competition by quite a few liters per 100 kilometers in many cases.
And the way that they did everything was fair, and you got a chance to test out the stability control, the traction control. You felt the body roll, or lack of body roll, as the case may be. So, and of course, we were fortunate to have a great facility.
You'd think after 20 years of TSN's motoring, I'd have run out of things to complain about. Not true. Now, we've covered off the big stuff, the photo radar and the automatic powered door locks and the left lane bandits, but I still see things on the highway every day that bug the heck out of me. And I'm going to give you 3 for the price of 1 today. Number 1, there are a lot of places in Canada where there are 2 left turn lanes at an intersection. But if you're in the rightmost of those two lanes, you better watch the guy beside you because he's coming across when he makes the turn. I don't know why so many people have difficulty staying in those little dotted lines. They put them on the road for a reason. Just stay there until you get going straight, then put your turn signal on and move over. Oh, speaking of turn signals, they're called turn indicators because they're supposed to indicate that you are about to turn, not that you are turning. So give us a little advanced warning, just 3 or 4 flashes, that's all we ask. And for a lot of you kids we see driving out there today, you don't use them at all. We see, my mind reading license expired a while ago and they won't renew it. So just give us a half a clue where you're going to go, please. And the third thing, I see this all the time in the summer. Passengers, hopefully not drivers, riding along with their feet up on the dashboard or maybe with one foot hanging out the right front window. Okay, you're trying to get a little breeze up your skirt or your shorts to cool off, but man, that's really dangerous. I mean, if you have a little collision, worse still if the airbag goes off, man, that's gonna hurt. Now maybe you'll end up being able to get a job in the circus, you know, the guy who has his feet behind his head, because that's about the only place you are gonna be able to put your feet. Oh, and if you haven't already had your children, forget about it. You ain't gonna have any. I'm Jim Kenzie.
This week I've had a chance to check out the new WRX and also discover that Subaru would like Canadians to take a much closer look at the entry-level 2.5i Impreza, and you can understand why. Because the compact car segment represents a whopping 25% of the market, while the sport division, as in WRX, represents 2%. So as you can see, the WRX may be good for the image, but the 2.5i is good for the bottom line. Well, what have they done with these new vehicles? Well, the WRX, they turned a great car into an even better car. And the 2.5i Impreza, I mean, take a look at it. It's better looking and it drives better also. In fact, we're going to put that sport model, which will be their bread and butter model, into our long-term garage and see if, after day in and day out living with it, if it really is what Subaru claims to be, the best vehicle in its segment. That's it for now. We'll see you next time as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
And this is a mid-engine, aluminum-bodied, all-wheel drive, 420 horsepower sports car. We really hope that this will help people reconsider their list of dream cars.
Motoring 2008 on TSN has been brought to you by the new Q horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.